John Fisher will have to pay close to $1.2 billion out of his own pocket to pay for his stadium in Las Vegas. How will he do this? It seems impossible after reading all your Twitter comments and hearing the media outlets speak the truth. Today on Locked On A's.
You are Locked On A's, your daily podcast on the Athletics, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I am your host, Booney. One name, yes, like Cher, Madonna, Prince, Sting, maybe? But with more baseball and no singing or performing. Thank you for making Locked On A's your first listen of the day. I'm from the Bay Area, and I've been a diehard A's fan since '81. I'm here to bring you a real fans take, covering everything from Oakland to Sacramento to Las Vegas. This is the place for A's fans to get the latest game breakdowns, team news, and more. This is where the passion of the fans take center stage. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. And please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button wherever you are following the show. Guys, ladies, today should be a national holiday. It really should. What's special about today? Well, catchers and pitchers report to spring training today. We are going to cover three prospects that we have all been going crazy over. Daniel Susac, Max Muncy, and yes, Elvis Presley. Not Elvis Presley, I'm just kidding there. But Nick Kurtz, same thing. With the hype and attention he has been getting, not difficult to mistake him for the king himself. And for good reason. That's later. I received an email from Scott Anderson, who grew up in Sacramento and now lives in Las Vegas. When he visits his mother in Sacramento, he's going to check out some A's games at Sutter Health Park. And he wanted to know how the park will affect pitching and hitting. Well, Scott, segment 2 is all for you. That's in a bit. First up, and I have to be honest, I came up with this story at the very last second because I continue to see comments about how John Fisher will come up with his portion to pay for his stadium. Same issue I had before. Media critics. Is it social bots maybe? Are real people actually saying this? Podcasters? I can't tell anymore. It's amazing. I've actually talked about this briefly before, but wanted to get into some depth about exactly how John Fisher will pay for the stadium. Does he have the money? What does he have to liquidate? What is the tax consequence? You guys all seem to have the answer. Well, I'm going to actually give you the truth for a change. I know that sounds foreign, but hey, why not? The other reason I used it was because I thought the actual thumbnail would get all the Oakland haters all excited, and you would click on the video and wanted to see how Fisher doesn't have the money, which he may not. We're going to get into that a little bit later. And what do you guys call that? You guys call that clickbait, I believe, right? Well, I hope you got clickbaited. And if you did, I'm sorry. Not sorry. How will John Fisher pay for his portion of the stadium? Up next. But did you know that new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins? Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. The misconception we often hear, whether it would be in the media via news, social media via Facebook or Twitter or Blue World, and that many people have grown to believe, is that John Fisher must liquidate his Gap stocks or other real estate holdings in order to pay for his portion of the Las Vegas Stadium, which is estimated to be around 1.2 billion. 1.2 billion in what Fisher has to come up with. And that may go up as well. What this would do is any type of liquidation of stock or real estate holdings would cause some sort of capital gains. Here's the reality. The reality is that high net worth individuals like John Fisher have financial tools that allow them to access liquidity without selling assets. This breakdown will explain how Fisher will fund his stadium contribution tax efficiently using which I've talked about in the past, securities-backed line of credit, often referred to as a SBLOC. In other words, let's get one thing straight. John Fisher, the billionaire owner of the Athletics, does not need to sell his yachts, his Picasso collection, or even a single share of stock to fund his share of the Las Vegas Stadium. And no, he's not going to be cutting a check while sobbing over a mountain of tax penalties. Despite what the Twitter mob and your cousin who knows finance after watching The Big Short might tell you, Fisher has access to financial tools so slick that they would make James Bond jealous. The man isn't about to start a garage sale to scrape together cash. Instead, he'll likely use a little-known strategy called like I mentioned, securities-backed line of credit. If you've never heard of it, don't worry. It's basically a billionaire's version of finding $20 in your winter coat pocket, except the coat is made of gold and the $20 is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Many assume, Vital Vegas, that Fisher must sell his investments, and since Uncle Sam loves a good payday, this would supposedly result in Fisher getting walloped with capital gains taxes. Sounds dramatic, right? Like some sort of Shakespearean tragedy. I should be saying triumph for you Oakland fans. But here's the thing. The assumption is completely wrong. Fisher isn't some guy cashing out his 401k early to buy a boat. He's a billionaire. Billionaires don't play by the same rules as the rest of us. They have access to financial cheat codes that make selling assets and paying taxes a last resort. Enter the SBLOC. Definition time. A securities-backed line of credit is essentially a loan where you use your investment portfolio, stocks, bonds, etc., Gap stock maybe, as collateral. How it works: instead of selling off Fisher stocks and triggering capital gains taxes like you've been talking about, Vital, and all you other Oakland fans, Fisher can stroll into a bank and say, hey, I've got billions in investments. Let me borrow against them. And the bank says, sure thing, Mr. Billionaire, and hands him a fat stack of cash. It's that simple. Why is this so genius? Since Fisher isn't selling anything, there's no taxable event. He keeps his investments intact. They continue to grow, maybe, and he gets the liquidity he needs to fund his stadium share. It's like taking out a loan against your house, but instead of a house, it's a portfolio worth more than some countries' GDPs. When Fisher was in this alone before he got his family involved, I personally thought he would need to sell off some assets in order to pay for the stadium. I actually initially thought the Vegas stadium was not going to happen. The Vegas move was not going to happen because of the possible tax implications, because of not having the money, because no approvals or loan transactions were in process. The next day, everything changed. US Bank and Goldman Sachs were involved. John Fisher said his family was now going to be involved. It then became a slam dunk. Simple. So why would John Fisher use an SBLOC instead of just selling assets? Oh, let me count the ways. 1, tax efficiency. Selling assets equals taxes. Borrowing against assets equals no taxes. It's that simple. Fisher can avoid giving Uncle Sam a dime while still getting all the cash he needs. 2, liquidity without sacrifice. By using an SBLOC, Fisher doesn't have to sell off his investments. That means he gets to keep earning returns on those assets while also funding the stadium. 3, flexibility. Billionaires love options and not just stock ones. The SBLOC gives Fisher the flexibility to borrow only on what he needs when he needs it. 4, risk mitigation. Sure, there's some risk involved, like if the stock market tanks and Fisher's portfolio loses value. But let's be real. John Fisher isn't putting up his kids' college fund here. He's got enough assets to weather any storm short of an asteroid hitting Earth. Speaking of, next, let's talk about some real-world examples. Billionaire hacks 101, I call it. Are you still skeptical? Oakland fans for sure. Well, let's look at some real-world examples of how billionaires use SBLOCs and similar strategies to fund big-ticket purchases without breaking a sweat. Elon Musk, when Musk needed billions to buy Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, he didn't sell Tesla stock outright. Instead, he used margin loans backed by his Tesla shares to raise cash. Same concept as an SBLOC. NFL owners. Many NFL stadium deals have been financed through creative borrowing rather than asset liquidation. Jerry Jones didn't sell half of Texas to build AT&T Stadium. He leveraged financing tools like Fisher is likely doing. Other sports owners, from Steve Ballmer buying the Clippers to David Tepper purchasing the Carolina Panthers, wealthy owners routinely use loans and credit lines backed by their portfolios to fund massive deals. So no, John Fisher isn't reinventing the wheel here. He's just playing the billionaire playbook like everyone else in his tax bracket. Why you should stop worrying about Fisher's wallet. Let's put this to bed once and for all. John Fisher's access to liquidity is not an issue. The man could fund the stadium 10 times over without selling so much as a single share of Gap stock. Yes, his family owns Gap. The idea that he'd be forced to sell assets and pay taxes is about as realistic as the A's moving back to Oakland. Here's what's actually happening. Fisher will likely use an SBLOC or a similar instrument to borrow against his investment portfolio. This strategy allows him to access billions of dollars without triggering a taxable event. He keeps his assets intact, avoids taxes, and still gets to build his shiny new stadium in Las Vegas. It's not rocket scientists, guys. It's billionaire science. Here are my final thoughts, and let's just all chill. So the next time someone tells you John Fisher is going to be hit with massive tax penalties to fund the Las Vegas stadium, feel free to hit him with this knowledge bomb. The man isn't selling anything. He's borrowing against his wealth. like any savvy billionaire would do. Love him or hate him as an owner, and let's be honest, all A's fans, everybody are firmly in the hate camp. You've got to respect his financial acumen, that's for sure. Now, I wish he could only apply that same savvy to building a championship baseball team, which he may have done. Who knows? Speaking of stadiums, the A's will be playing at Sutter Health Park in Sacramento this year. How will the stadium play and who will it favor? Hitters or pitchers? Up next. Today's episode is brought to you in part by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on the fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three. Steph Curry. I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use. And when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Sutter Health Park, located in West Sacramento, will serve as the A's temporary home for the next 3 seasons. The park has been the longtime home of the Sacramento Rivercats, a Triple-A affiliate in the Pacific Coast League. Unlike the Oakland Coliseum, known for its huge foul ground and pitcher-friendly environment, Sutter Health Park presents a new challenge in assessing its impact on the A's performance. One of the most common questions for the A's this offseason is how Sutter Health will play. Will Sutter Health favor hitters or pitchers? Well, it will favor hitters for sure. Not by a crazy amount, but enough that we'll notice it in the stats. Think of it like playing a video game and moving from hard mode for hitters at the Coliseum to medium mode at Sutter Health Park. Sutter Health Park will play differently than the Oakland Coliseum. The expectation is not an extreme shift in offensive explosion. Instead, it will likely resemble a slightly hitter-friendly yet balanced environment where smart roster constructions and in-game adjustments will determine success. In other words, hitters will get a slight boost in home runs and fewer foul outs. It's not exactly going to be home run derby on a nightly basis. Guys like Brett Hooker could see their home run totals tick up slightly, maybe an extra 2 or 3 dingers per season. Rooker actually looked at the data and thinks it will be slightly better for hitters than Oakland, but not some ridiculous bandbox where bloop singles turn into grand slams. Pitching has already begun making some mental adjustments to their strategy by pitching lower in the zone and relying more on ground balls than flyouts. Everyone assumed that Sutter Health Park will be Coors Field 2.0 because it's part of the Pacific Coast League, a league notorious for its hitter-friendly parks. But historically, Sutter Health Park has played close to league average in terms of offense. Sutter Health, however, does not share the extreme elevation or desert air that makes those other parks in the Pacific Coast League high scoring. If you want to compare it to a major league park, I would say the best comparison is probably like a Great American Ballpark where the Cincinnati Reds play. Foul ground is smaller and warm summers do boost offense. At the Coliseum, home runs typically required a 105 plus mph exit velocity. At Sutter Health Park, home runs have been observed with exit velocities around 92 mph. Yes, you're going to see more offense, but nothing crazy. It's nowhere close to being a Colorado Rockies 2.0. Another thing you must remember is that the Coliseum, as you know, wasn't exactly hitter friendly. Let's start with the basics. Sutter Health Park versus the Oakland Coliseum. Sutter Health Park's outfield dimensions are 330 feet to left, 403 to center, and 325 to right. Compare that to the Coliseum. 330 to left, 400 to center, and 330 to right. So basically, they are almost identically the same. Basically like fraternal twins where one is slightly taller. But here's the kicker. The Coliseum had a secret weapon. Foul territory so vast you could host a yoga retreat out there. It gave pitchers extra chances to get batters out on pop-ups. Sutter Health Park? Nope. It's got more of a cozier vibe, like your grandma's living room. Less foul territory means more chances for hitters to keep their at-bats alive. And let's not forget about the Coliseum's marine layer. Nature's air conditioner that kept balls from flying out of the park at night. Sacramento, no marine layer, just heat and lots of it. Speaking of heat, let's talk about the Sacramento summers. It gets hot. Like, why did I wear jeans today hot? How does that affect gameplay? Well, it's huge. Warm air is less dense than cold air, which means baseballs fly farther in hot weather. Sacramento can hit triple digits in the summer, but here's the twist. The A's have already scheduled 60 of their 81 home games at night. But even at night, Sacramento isn't exactly chilly. It's not Denver level thin air or Vegas level dry heat, but it's enough to give hitters a little extra pop. You know, like adding an extra shot of espresso to your frappuccino. How about the wind patterns at Sutter Health? Well, it lacks the dampening effect of the Bay Area's marine layer, which historically suppressed home run rates in Oakland. Wind data suggests a neutral to slightly favorable effect on hitters, depending on the time of year. Now, if we are going by seasons, here's what you're looking at. Spring and early summer. Cooler temperatures in April and may keep the park more neutral. Humidity levels could slightly impact ball flight. Mid to late summer, high heat, dry conditions may lead to increased home run rates. How about in the fall? Cooling trends in September and October could reduce offensive impact. I don't think I told you anything mind-boggling or surprising right there. How is the front office going to treat Sutter Health Park with free agents? Well, GM David Forrest acknowledged that attracting pitchers will be more difficult than in Oakland. At the Coliseum, it was like, hey, come pitch here. I'll make you look like a Cy Young. Now, not so much. They'll have to rely on developing young arms internally or overpaying free agents who don't mind a few extra dingers on their record. While most reports we have heard says that Sutter Health Park should lean slightly hitter-friendly, but remain relatively balanced, I think it's a little bit more than that. I think we are going to see some runs. It is not going to be Colorado, but I do see it in between Colorado and Oakland. More like 60-40 favoring the hitter. I think the A's have done a heck of a job, though, in constructing a roster that balances power and gap hitting. They have recruited pitchers who excel at ground balls rather than fly balls. So when you are considering something like Sutter Health Park, it's different. The A's have done a hell of a job constructing their roster around it. The adjustment is really going to be needed by the opponent. I think Sutter Health offers a true home field advantage that Major League Baseballs have not experienced in a very, very long time. And I think the following players will have an opportunity to experience what Sutter Health Park can do for hitters. I don't know, guys like Max Muncy, Daniel Susac, Nick Kurtz. Let's talk about them up next. When you're talking about A's prospects, it starts with this guy. You know who I'm talking about. Nick Kurtz, first baseman, 22 years old, 6'5", 235. Drafted in the first round of the 2024 MLB draft out of Wake Forest, number 4 overall. He's a left-handed hitting first baseman who profiles as one of the safest bets from his draft class. He dominated college pitching and quickly acclimated to pro ball, reaching Double-A in his debut season. High contact rate with an in-zone contact rate near 87%. Power, career, 61 home runs in college. Elite exit velocities, averaging 94 miles per hour, and his max was 111. Plate discipline, elite chase rate, sub 14%, but can be overly passive. 30% walk rate. Bat speed generates consistent hard contact. How about his fielding? His range moves well for a first baseman, but won't stand out. Arm strength, average, but not a key tool at first base. And his versatility. He's locked in at first base. He's not going to play any other positions. Speed-wise, he's not a liability out there, but he's really not going to add any value on the bases either. His strengths, elite plate discipline and advanced hitting approach, well-rounded offensive profile with power and contact ability. He has quickly adapted to pro ball with his strong Double-A debut. What are some things he needs to work on? Well, his overly patient approach may need adjusting in pro ball. But if that's what scouts consider his problem, we have ourselves a gem. Who would I compare him to? I think he's like a Freddie Freeman, real similar to a Freddie Freeman. And depending on what the A's want to do with him, how the season is going, I think he'll come up after the All-Star break, late 2025. And I could see Kurtz as a potential middle-of-the-order bat who can hit 280 plus with 25 to 30 bombs at peak. How about Daniel Susac, catcher? We haven't heard his name lately. I mean, he was a 2022 first-round pick out of Arizona, I believe. Only 23 years old. He'll most likely be in AAA ball this year. Hitting-wise, he showed contact-first approach in 2023, but went a little bit backwards in 2024 with a lot more swing and miss. He has raw power, but struggles to unlock it in games due to aggressive swing decisions. Plate discipline. Chase rate ballooned to nearly 40% last year, leading to an awful 4.3% walk rate. His bat speed is above average, but needs better pitch recognition to maximize it. On the defensive side, he needs to work on his framing and handling a pitching staff. Arm strength. Throughout 26% of the base runners, solid but not elite. Blocking, inconsistent in preventing pass balls. Speed, catchers aren't expected to be burners, and, well, Susac is no exception. His strengths. Susac has above average raw power that could play well if he refines his approach. He does have a strong arm that helps control the running game. What he needs to work on. He's overly aggressive at the plate, which led to that awful 4.3% walk rate. Too many pass balls. Needs to improve. That cannot happen. Best case scenario, he improves plate discipline and becomes a power hitting defensive first MLB catcher. Worst case, struggles with contact and defense, becomes a bat first backup. The A's catching situation is always up in the air, with Shea Langoliers entrenched as the A's starting catcher. Susak's path to regular playing time is unclear unless he makes major strides defensively. I don't see him coming up until next year, best case scenario. Out of all prospects in the A's organization, I have heard two names mentioned the most. One is Nick Kurtz, obviously, and two is Max Muncy. First round pick in 2021. He's currently in AAA. Contact. Improved in-zone contact, 83%, but still chases too often. A 30% chase rate. Power, 90th percentile. His exit velocity is over 104, which is above the MLB average. Plate discipline. Decent approach, but could improve against breaking balls. Back speed, good hands, and quick reactions help him handle velocity. How about in the field? He moves well, has good range, but where exactly he is going to be in the infield is a question. Is it going to be second base? Will it be third base? What is the best fit for Muncy? He has a solid arm, but far from elite. And that is the only concern I have for Muncy playing at third base. Muncy does have versatility. He has experience at shortstop and at second base as well. What's his strengths? Well, he has strong on-base percentage skills. He knows how to work a walk. His power has gotten better, making him more of a complete hitter. His defensive versatility gives him multiple paths to the majors. He struggles against breaking balls, which could limit his upside. And at the plate, he does have a ground ball heavy approach, which reduces his power potential. If you're looking for a comparison for Max Muncy, I see him like a Brandon Lau. Solid power, some strikeout concerns. I think his best fit is at second base. His future projections, best case scenario, everyday second baseman with 20 plus home run power and solid on base skills. And if he turns out to be that, I would absolutely fall in love with that. Worst case scenario, utility infielder who struggles against MLB pitching. When do I see him coming up? It all depends on how Muncy performs in the first half of the season. If he has just a solid season in the first half, I could see him being brought up after the All-Star break. The A's infield is a bit of a mess. So who knows? I mean, Muncy does have the tools to be a productive MLB player, but his ability to adjust to better pitching will determine his ceiling. If he continues to improve, like I said, he could push up for a call at the All-Star break. We'll see what happens. One thing is for sure. Keep an eye on these prospects. They have big time upside. And there's no question that the A's future and the optimism surrounding it are due to guys like this. Thank you for making Locked On A's your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast.